Good evening! We have some spooky updates tonight.
Tim, is that supposed to be your costume? You don't look scary at all.
Well, just wait until you see how scary fast the M3 chip can be.
Is it what? Is it like 15 to 20% faster and maybe a little bit more and like GPU? Is that supposed to be scary, Tim?
No. I guess not.
Then why are you emphasizing this as this whole scary, spooky event? You're not in costume.
Oh, you want scary?
Yeah, I want scary.
The iMac still comes with lightning accessories.
Well, we set some new records today. Apple had their shortest event of all time, undercutting the M1 event that was just 45 minutes 3 years ago. This Apple event, they were in and out in 30 minutes, and they were just done. Probably the coolest bit of information, though, the entire event was actually shot on iPhone 15 Pro. It was edited on a Mac. Clearly, there was a lot of special effects going on, but still, did not see that coming. It was a total shock to me at the very end. They were like, by the way, this was all shot on an iPhone. Super cool, honestly, that they were able to do that, and no one was able to notice. I've always been ridiculing Apple in the past. I'm like, you guys gotta make a camera as long as you're filming Apple events without iPhone. Now they're filming with iPhones. Okay. But all that aside, most of the announcements today for me were incredibly disappointing. So yeah, they threw the M3 chip in the iMac, but that's literally all they did. It's the exact same color options as before. No changes to the pricing, the ports on the back, even the Magic Keyboard and Magic Mouse and trackpad. They still charge via Lightning. How can they do this? They know about the EU mandate, right? They're gonna have to change these later anyway, but they just decided not to do it now, even though we had like USB-C color matched cables and everything rumored. Why? You're switching an iPhone to Type-C. Why do you want the Lightning cable to exist on the Mac of all devices? This never should have had Lightning in the first place, especially because it's such a Type-C focused device. I was very confused by that. The iMac was disappointing, but the MacBook Pros got most of the love today thanks to a new family of chips, so this was also a first for Apple. They unveiled 3 new pieces of silicon today: the M3, M3 Pro, and M3 Max. Basically, the whole family's just dropping all at once, and pretty much it's all going in the MacBook Pro, which now they have officially killed off the touch bar. This was like a little glimmer of hope for me. I was like, you know, if they put the regular M3 in a touch bar MacBook, maybe I want to try out a touch bar again. And nope, okay. Squash that dream. It's not happening because the touch bar MacBook has finally been removed from the site. That design was around for way too long. It had been like 7 years with that design language, but they replaced it with a new entry-level 14-inch MacBook Pro. And in my opinion, this is kind of the most interesting one out of the whole bunch. So a lot of you probably won't like that it still ships with 8 gigabytes of unified memory, but for a lot of people on more of a budget, I personally think that's enough. What's more impressive to me is that it's $1,600 for the same great display that you got before that you used to have to pay $2,000 to get. So it's a 14-inch ProMotion mini LED and everything with typical brightness up to 600 nits, which is a little bit better than before. But of course, with HDR and peak brightness, it gets up to 1,000 nits, which is crazy bright. And it has the regular M3 chip, not the M3 Pro, but thanks to all of the improvements with the 3nm architecture, the ray tracing, the updated GPU, the dynamic caching, all the fancy Apple marketing terms that basically means it will perform faster now. That should result in this thing probably outperforming previous gen M2 Pros and M1 Pros by far. Even though it's not a pro level chip, I still think it will be insanely fast. And I think it's cool that the MacBook Pro 14-inch model now starts at $1,600, whereas before it was a pretty high barrier to entry, and if you couldn't afford the $2,000, you had to go with the dated Touch Bar MacBook, which is finally gone. But if you're willing to spend a bit more to get the M3 Pro or M3 Max, now you can get them in space black, probably Marquez approved, which they said has some kind of fingerprint resistant coating. But yeah, newer chips, they go up to 128 gigs of unified memory now on a laptop, which is kind of nuts. 18 gigs of RAM by default now on both the M3 Pro and Max chips, which is nice. They still max out at 8 terabytes of storage, and there's lots of different bin options, but oddly, yeah, Space Black is restricted to the real pros with the higher end chips. You cannot get Space Black on the lower end M3 MacBook. That still has Space Gray, but Space Gray was removed on the higher end MacBook. MacBooks. I don't know. There's still a little bit of a hierarchy going on between the MacBook Pros, including a little bit of a port difference now. Like the entry-level $1,600 MacBook Pro removes the third USB-C port on the right side. In my opinion, kind of an important port. I use that a lot, but they needed some way to differentiate between the real higher-end MacBook Pros and this cheaper entry-level MacBook Pro at $1,600. So you miss out on a port and you don't get as great a RAM option by default. But in my opinion, still a great choice for someone who might be interested in having a mini LED display on their MacBook, along with ProMotion, which looks excellent. And on top of that, because the M3 chip is so dang efficient, that entry-level MacBook gets the same 22-hour battery life that before you had to get a 16-inch MacBook Pro to achieve. So if you go somewhere in the middle, you know, with a space black 14-inch, you're actually going to get worse battery life than that entry-level model. So I actually could see a lot of people opting for that lower-end M3 model, which is pretty cool. But no updates to Apple Vision Pro, no updates to any MacBook Airs, no new Mac Mini. I'm guessing these chips run pretty hot because they seem to only be putting them in Macs that have cooling systems in place. That's just what we've seen with the 3nm architecture on the A17 Pro, so my guess is we'll see some power limitations and thermal limitations as well with these M3s. But yeah, you can order them today, although if you want the M3 Max, you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer to order that. Same thing with the iMac, it's not gonna be available for another couple weeks. But overall, I certainly felt like this could have been a site refresh. They were probably on the fence on whether or not they should do a keynote. I really thought they were gonna hype up the fact that it's like almost Halloween. This is the first Apple event in decades that they've had like late into the evening, and people were thinking, oh, maybe they're announcing some gaming thing for a company in Japan. Nope, there was practically zero mention of gaming, just a little bit about controller support and how the Macs are great at playing games thanks to these new chips, but nothing inherently talking about exclusive game titles or anything like that, and no costumes by any of the presenters at the keynote today, which I thought would have been so hilarious and appropriate. Kind of the cinematography was a little spooky, but honestly just more impressive that they said even the drone shots of Apple Park were recorded with an iPhone 15. Frankly, that little disclaimer at the end surprised me more than everything else at this presentation, because it was all just kind of blah. Like, yay, fast computer is now faster. No Face ID or anything interesting like that has been added. So pretty uneventful for an Apple event, in my opinion. No Craig Federighi. This would have been a perfect time for him to dress up as Dracula. But what do you guys think of the announcements, the presentations? What do you want to know more about? Are there any Macs today that you want me to review? I can tell you right now, I'm not checking out that iMac. It's hideous. I stand by that. I'm not changing my opinion on it. And I'm insulted and offended that it's still shipping with Lightning accessories. That's just ridiculous. But are you guys curious about the performance of that entry-level MacBook Pro? Is that worth checking out? What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you all in the next one.